That team over there is resilient and tough mentally and physically. And here came the Bills, and there went Dallas because Buffalo scored 26 unanswered points. That was the worst loss because they just flat out lost that game. It's indefensible from start to finish. So I'm here to tell you, this team has so lost its way that there is no way it's going to go a week from last night to Chicago and win that game against the Bears, who I watched beat the Lions. Barely, but they beat them.
Right.
They're not going to win that game. They're not going to come home and beat the Rams at home, even though the Rams are struggling, you can argue, even more than the Cowboys are.
That's correct.
But somehow Jared Goff has had the Cowboys' number, and I believe he'll have it again. And finally, there is absolutely no way that I think the Cowboys can even go to the lowly Eagles, the Beagles as I call them, and win the big showdown game on, December 22nd, because what evidence do I have of this? This team has yet to beat any team with a winning record, not one time. I have no evidence that they can right the ship or flip the switch, as Jerry's saying, this is going to be the greatest story ever told. Baloney it is. It's over. Because look at what the Eagles have left. The easiest closing schedule in the National Football League. Look at what happens. The Eagles get to go to the Dolphins. Then they come home to play the Giants. Then they go to the Redskins. Then they get the Cowboys at home. And then the Giants at the Giants. They're going to win out.
We take it one at a time.
How can they not win out? So I'm here today to congratulate Shannon Sharp and his Philadelphia Eagles. You just won the NFC East. It is over.
Don't buy it.
It is done.
Without buying what you said,
it is over. I'm not selling anything. I'm just telling you. I'm just opening my heart. You can call me a psycho-crazed fan, and I am, because I threw Dak's jersey in the trash last year, but I fished it out because he earned me.
You should have put him back in there yesterday. Did you do that?
We'll talk about that. No, I did not, because the truth is that Dak Prescott's really all this team has had all year. I've told you this about 50 times.
Well, that ain't
on
much.
Show.
If all they got is him, it ain't much.
And the irony of what we're saying here is the only reason that my Cowboys are still on some sort of life support, some meaningless, weird life support, is because the Eagles, starting with Carson Wentz, have been so shockingly awful. Carson Wentz has regressed. Carson Wentz is not as good as Dak Prescott anymore. Maybe at one point it was at least a competition, but that's over.
I can't tell right now.
Yeah, well, I can. I can show you a whole lot of numbers on that one. Carson Wentz is a disaster, but he's less of a disaster than my team is. And the only reason my team is on life support is because your secondary was so decimated all year, but it's starting to come back together, starting to get healthy. So I will give you this. Your defense is much better than my defense is at this point, because my defense is way overrated, and it has been all year. My pass rush, featuring DeMarcus Lawrence, D-Law, $100 million man, it's way overrated because it's so wildly inconsistent. You'll see a flash. What did I just tell you? They'll make a play here or there.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Look at Robert Quinn. Look at Michael Bennett. And then what? Then it will go for 2 quarters, and you won't even hear from it anymore.
Nope.
DeMarcus Lawrence is way overpaid at $100 million.
What?
Just the way my offensive line is way overpaid all across the board. They don't play up to their contracts. Not one of them does, where I say, that's dominating. They can't block for the run. They cannot protect Dak Prescott consistently. You don't see a full game of dominant run blocking, dominant protection. It just breaks down like crazy. They look like a sieve about half the plays in the game. I'm sorry. And I'm going to get to Ezekiel Elliott in a little bit here, but he's not worth $90 million. He's not a $90 million running back.
If you only give him 12 carries a game, he can't show you what he can do.
We'll talk about that, because he had 2 big carries early, and then, I don't know, he was gone.
What about those 2 carries in the second half?
What 2 carries?
Exactly. That's all he had in the second half was 2.
Well, I'm going to get to that soon, because he's still way overrated.
No, your quarterback is.
My quarterback has been the only bright spot, and it's hard to defend my quarterback because...
Well, you're trying really hard.
He is now 9th worst in the league, which is not the bottom, but he's 9th worst in turnovers. So total turnovers,
hold up.
That's hard to overcome.
Hold up. And yesterday he was bouncing to him, throwing the ball at Zeke's feet.
Well, he's not as bad as that guy is.
Your guy hit the D lineman in the belly with a pick. But that was Jason Garrett's fault because he was on the sideline clapping, G, and you ain't know that. That was his fault. What about the strip sack? What are you doing with the ball? I thought you protect the ball in your hand. You in the pocket, Skip.
It's actually the first time that's happened all year.
No,
he did not see the rookie from the University of Houston behind him.
That's the first time. That's the first time they lost it. It's happened, but if you don't lose it, then don't worry about it. Go ahead, make it.
Okay, so I want to be clear about this. I want to restate my position on Jason Garrett. I said all the way back to after the 2013 season, I'd seen enough of Jason Garrett. So that's on the old show on ESPN. I was on the record after 2 8-8s and a little half season replacing Wade Phillips. That was enough. Not a head coach, too vanilla, too uninspiring, too meat and potatoes, too conservative, too much play not to lose. I'm done with Jason Garrett. That's a long time ago. So I've had to live with him all this way. And the only metallic silver lining to last night was that was good night for Jason Garrett because, yeah, he's going to stay afloat the rest of the year because Jerry loves him like a son. But he will be gone after this year. So that's the only positive takeaway from yesterday was that was the end of Jason Garrett.
I'll be glad. You know why?
And yet I told you also last Monday of this week that I would have fired him on Monday following the New England loss only to shake up the locker room. It needed a jump start. It needed to be kicked in the butt with such a shocking change. Elevate Chris Richard, the head coach.
After that defense, what it did yesterday?
I'm just saying you need some new voice, some new look up there at the podium.
Chris Richard's voice is not even resonating with his defense. It's going to resonate through the whole team.
Okay, well, you got to put somebody up there.
Well, you got Jason
put
Garrett.
Rod Marinelli up there.
Oh, really? Do you remember the last time we saw him coach? 0-16.
Well, do you realize the last 8 years I've seen Jason Garrett coach?
You got 3 divisions.
I'm done with it. I've had enough of Jason Garrett. I've seen enough, heard enough, because I don't hear anything. But the point is, given all that, Jerry Jones shocked me last night because after he was so highly critical of Jason Garrett, he basically was admitting to you last night that was all phony baloney. He was just playing to the crowd. At New England, that was only intended to light a fire under the football team. So he tried to light it himself while protecting the coach that he does love like a son. Then all of a sudden, we went from angry Jerry to teary-eyed Jerry. What? He wasn't flat out crying. He just got tears of emotion in his eyes. And I got to tell you, it started coming off like crazy old man talk. It was like sappy old man Thanksgiving night talk, right? After Thanksgiving dinner and a couple of drinks.
Yeah, a couple of drinks.
And he said, some people would say, what are you really smoking? No, I was wondering, what are you really drinking, old man, right? Because this got so sappy that he's talking about, I've lived a football life.
Yeah.
Which is the title of the documentaries we see on NFL Network. I've lived a football life with Jason Garrett, as if he's trying to say, hint, hint, maybe Jason and I would make a good football life together, right? He's like a son to me. And then Jerry starts talking about the greatest story ever told would be them flipping the switch out of nowhere, winning the division, and going to the Super Bowl. He had the audacity to talk about that. But here's where you missed the boat on this.
Okay.
It wasn't him talking like a fan. Jerry has now gone so delusional that he believes that he is the Dallas Cowboys. Like, he assembled the whole team. He picked the players. He paid the players. He picked all the coaches. He put them all in their positions. So he is now completely identifying with the Cowboys, as in all that talk about adversity and what I've been through before in my life. I've been kicked in the butt, and I got back up and stood on my feet and fought back. He's talking about what happened to him in the oil fields.
Right.
That's what he's identifying as he is now the Dallas Cowboys, because I've told you the story that he told me for my first book, I believe it was, but how he went so bust in the oil fields early on that he flew into Love Field in Dallas and went to the rent car counter and handed his credit card to the woman behind the counter, and she took one look and took out her scissors and cut it in two because he was dead broke. So he knows what it feels like to be dead broke. So he's now identifying this plight with his plights in the oil field. Well, that's just craziness because it's not the same. And then he talked later in this 26-minute conversation about redemption. He's asking the reporters, do you believe in redemption? Because I'm a great example of redemption. I have redeemed myself. So it's all about Jerry as if he's going to be able to will his background and his personality and his resilience on the football team going forward. That's crazy talk. Jerry, what do you see before your very eyes? You see a losing football team.
But Skip, this is where I say Jerry and you have a lot of the fan in you. Because what happened last year? You launched. You keep saying at 3-5 last year, we're going to launch. Jerry, that's how the fans think. Everybody knows.
But what happened at 3-5? Jerry, to his credit, went out and got a real receiver. He got Amari, and I told you it changed life in Dallas. At least it did last year,
right?
right?
One more thing, Skip, before we go. You said you have no evidence that shows you that they can beat a good team or can turn this thing around. You've been had that evidence. You've been had it. Okay. Every good team they face, they lose. And now all of a sudden.
I just said that.
That's what, no.
And by the way, I'm even disqualifying. I thought there was one, quote unquote, good win on the record so far. The Eagles are Beagles. It's disqualified.
No.
It's like you can't even count that one as, that was a great win. No, it wasn't.
I've been trying to tell you this for the longest, but you don't want to hear me. You don't want to listen to me. But you will. 2 weeks from now, you'll be listening to me.
You finally got one right. I give it up. It's over. Congratulations. I can't remember how many cases of Diet Dew we bet on this, 5 or whatever it was, but you just won. Congratulations.
Yep.
Game over. Drink up.
Nope. I ain't gonna do no premature celebration. I'm not like that, Skip. I don't celebrate when someone is down. I don't like, soaking up in their misery. That's not how I am. Yeah. I'm not wired like that.
Neither one of you are.
I've been such a good loser on the show for years because I'm only 43 cases up right now. But
well, you about to be 33 up.
Okay.
Because I'm about to win this Laker bet and I'm about to win this bet. That's 10 cases right there.
Okay, I'm only 30.